What's going on, guys? Just stopping in for a quick message this morning. I had intentions on releasing another video this morning, which I'm still going to release that video. It'll probably be later today or later tomorrow sometime. But I had a very powerful dream last night / this morning, and I woke up around 3:30. And the dream was still on my mind, but in like bits and fragments. So I woke up to use the bathroom. After using the bathroom, I got down and prayed. Probably was in prayer for about 30-45 minutes. And I prayed to God to continue to reveal that dream to me and put me back in that dream so that I could pick up on it. And I did, because once I finished praying, I laid back down. I noticed myself dozing off. I could see the dream again and feel it coming on as I was falling asleep. And then once I woke up this morning again, once again I woke up and the dream was fresh on my mind, which I should have got up and written it down then. But I got busy with doing things around the house and taking care of my daughter, getting her food, fixing her breakfast, all these things. And I kind of forgot about the dream again. But in the middle of fixing breakfast for my daughter, she just asked me the oddest question out of nowhere. Well, it wasn't an odd question. It was like a reminder from God. When I was fixing breakfast, she just said, "Daddy, what do you dream about?" And when she asked me that, that's when the dream that God gave me just popped up in my mind. And I started to remember everything again. And then God started to give me revelation on what the dream meant. And I answered my daughter the question. I told her I have regular dreams like she has. And then I said, sometimes I have dreams from God. God gives me dreams about things that are going to happen in the future, things that he wants for his people to do, and things that he wants us to accomplish. I said he gives me prophetic dreams sometimes. But the dream that God gave me this morning, it wasn't a long dream. It wasn't a very complicated dream. It was a powerful dream, and it was like in repetition. Like I would have the dream, and at the end of the dream would start over and repeat again. So in this dream, I was in this group of people. It was the number of the people was a great number. I would say you couldn't even count them. It was just that many people, and we were all in bondage. We were like in chains and in shackles, and we were walking towards. It seems like we were walking towards. We were walking on like a beach. As you can see, the ocean to our right, and we were walking towards a destination. I don't know what the destination was, but it was like a fortified destination, and it was this woman who was there that we were all walking towards. And I can tell in the dream that she was the one in charge of everything, and that she was the one calling for us to be brought to her. Because in that dream, there were people who were walking alongside of us, who were making sure we stayed in line, and who were making sure we followed the crowd to get to where we were supposed to go. But during that walk, all of a sudden the shackles and the chains that were on us were just loose, and they all fell to the ground, and we were free. So there were those among the group who once we were free, we split off from the group and started going our own way. But then the people who were there to keep us in line and make sure we made it to the lady, they started shouting at us to come back, and they started insulting us and degrading us and threatening us if we didn't come back. But they never came after us. They were trying to get us to come back on our own accord. And then they even got the people who we were with, who we were once in bondage with, they even got those people to start shouting at us and screaming at us and insulting us and telling us to come back and telling us we would die if we didn't come back, and telling us how worse off our life would be if we didn't come back and join them. But then the strangest thing happened when we didn't come back and we continued to go our own way. Those people who stayed, they had a new set of chains on them, and it wasn't like a normal chain. It was like the chains were like kind of like in a square. It wasn't. I wouldn't even say it was a chain. It was a confinement device that was around their arms, kind of like a square cube type device. But the thing about it was nothing holding it closed. It closed on it. Once it closed over their hands, yes, it was closed, but there was nothing keeping it locked. So at any given moment, they could take their hands out if they wanted to. But they continued on and walking on that beach, and they made it to the woman who they were being delivered to. And once they made it to the woman, she put them in bondage again. But once again, this wasn't a bondage where they were forced there, because they could get out at any given moment, and they just chose to stay there. And those of us who had broken free, we were telling them to come with us and leave and escape to their freedom. And they were telling us how they couldn't escape because they were in chains, they were in bondage, and they needed to be free. And we were just telling them to just shake it off, shake the device off their hands, that they could just, knock it off on their own and leave with us. But they didn't. So at that point of the dream, it ended, and it would start over again. But what God was telling me was this message. He said, this morning when my daughter asked me, what do I dream about? That's when God started breaking the dream down to me and telling me what it meant. He said the group of people that were in bondage, that had the chains and shackles on them, that had fallen off. He said those people represented the African Americans in this country, not just people who migrated from Africa and now America, but he said Americans who are of African descent that have been here for years. He said they go back to the they're descendants of the people who were once slaves in this country. He said that's who those people were. And he said the bondage represented those ancestors that we had who were in slavery, who were in fact slaves and in bondage. And he said those shackles falling off represented when he freed us from bondage, when he freed those people from bondage. He said he gave them their freedom a long time ago, but as a people they kept themselves in bondage. He said that's what the device that appeared on their hands that locked them in and made it seem that they were in bondage. He said that was kind of a self-imposed bondage. And he said the lady that they were going to, and the lady that was yelling and screaming at those people who had broken away, he said that lady represented the Democratic Party. He said the African Americans have been in bondage to the Democratic Party. And he said they haven't kept them in bondage with shackles, with physical bondage. He said they kept them in bondage with their words. He said that was the importance of those people shouting and insulting and degrading those people who had broken away. He said they have no real power to keep you in bondage anymore. So they use their words to keep you in bondage. And what he means by using their word to keep you in bondage, he said they make promises to you of what they're going to do for you in return for your support. And he said, we've been supporting them for years, for decades, and being in bondage to them by the words that they use to keep us in bondage, but they haven't delivered on those promises. He said those promises and those words weren't meant to be delivered upon. They were meant to keep us in bondage to them, keep us serving them, keep us doing their will, keeping us as a voting block for them, to keep them in power and to keep them in authority. He said, but it's up to us as a people to realize that those words are the only thing that's keeping us in bondage. He said he freed us a long time ago. And he said there are some of us who walked away with that freedom, but there are still those of us who are still in bondage, and they don't want to let go. They keep going, not knowing that they've been free. All they have to do is walk away. The power, he said, there's no chain, there's no lock to the shackles that they have on you. He said the lock is gone. He said there's no key needed. He said you are the key to walking away. You are the key to your own freedom. He said all you have to do is shed the words and the promises that they've been promising you, the words that they've been speaking to you. He said, shed those words off, shed those promises off, because they're empty promises, they're false promises that haven't been delivered upon. He said, once you step out in faith on him and leave those words and empty promises behind, you will see that those promises were never going to be met, and those promises were never going to be kept. They were just a means to keep you, and they were just a means to have you around for your support. He said the slavers have kept you enslaved, and not by their own power, but your power. He said they have used your power to keep you enslaved. And he said that's the biggest thing that they fear. They fear that you will gain the knowledge to know that they have no power over you, they have no authority over you, and they have no way of delivering the things they promised to you. And they fear that once you gain this knowledge, you're going to walk away because they have nothing to offer you. And they know that you will find out that they're the ones who are keeping you in bondage. So he also said that when the people made it to the lady, and then they were asking for help from the ones who were free, he said they realized that once they were deep into the Democratic Party, that's what they represented. They made it into the Democratic Party. They bought into the promises. They bought into the hype. They bought into the words that they were telling them. But they realized once they bought in and they got all the way in, they saw there was no way out for them. There was no escape. And the promises weren't going to be kept. So they were asking for help, but they didn't realize that they're their own help. Okay, I'm back. My son was waking up and he was screaming for me, so I had to go see what he wanted. And guess what? This is my second time recording this part of the video. Because after going and checking on my son, I came back and I started recording the second part of the video again. And guess what? I realized my microphone wasn't on, so it was just a video of me and my lips moving, and you all couldn't hear a thing I was saying. So I'm recording this again. But nevertheless, this message will be recorded, and I'm going to finish it up. Like I was saying, these people, they were asking for help and asking to be freed, but they didn't realize that they were their own help. All they had to do was walk away. God said all they had to do for those shackles to be released and fall off of them was make up their mind to walk away, make up their mind that they didn't want to be in bondage anymore. God was saying, he said they are keeping themselves in bondage. He said they're keeping themselves in bondage by believing the lies, by believing the rhetoric that is being spoken to them. He said they're keeping themselves in bondage by letting the mockery of the people who had walked away and the disdain of the people who had walked away and the scorn of the people who had walked away become fear in their heart because they didn't want to be treated the same way. He said these people have such a need to be accepted and loved by everyone that they cannot stand to be mocked or be ridiculed or shamed for making a decision that seems to go against what they are told to do. But God says that's one of the reasons, and that's how they've been kept in bondage for so long, because the Democratic Party knows that they want to be a pleasing people. They want to be accepted, and they want to be looked at as contributors. So they use that against them to hold them in bondage, tell them that they're contributing to the Democratic Party and contributing to furthering this nation and this country in freedom and progressiveness, when actually they're not. They're progressing the Democratic Party, but they're not progressing this country. The Democratic Party is not for progressing this country. The Democratic Party is about progressing themselves. That's what God says. And they're using the Black American vote to do that because they know that we have a significant impact on elections and on voting. And as long as they can keep us intact as a voter bloc for them, that they will have a strong chance of accomplishing the things that they want. But God said they're keeping us in bondage. And it is time for us to break away. God said he has freed us from that bondage already. But we have made, as a people, as a community, as a whole, as a culture, we have made the decision to keep following the Democrats because they have mentally ensnared us and making us dependent on them when they are not delivering the things that they have promised to deliver to us, and they're not giving us the things that they said they're going to give us. He said, they always tell us, oh, next time we'll get to you, or next time it'll be better, or we couldn't get to you this time because we had opposition on this side. He said there have been plenty of instances where the Democratic Party has had no opposition, where they have been in control of the House, the Senate, the presidency, and they have been the majority in several cases, but they have not delivered on the promises to us. And we as a people have to come together and come to the conclusion and see that, and that's when we will be able to step out of the bondage. He said, how long will you continue to support an institution that doesn't support you? Then he said that's what that stronghold, that position, that defensive position that those people were being marched to in the dream, that's what they represented. They represented the Democratic Party, the Democratic institution. And it's not an institution to defend the black people. It's an institution to enslave the black people, to keep them there, to keep them in bondage, to keep taps on them, to keep them all in one place. He said, what better way to keep a people in bondage than to have them all in one central location where they can be monitored and where they can be watched, and you can know where they all are at any one moment. He said that's why those people who chose to walk away from after being initially set free by God, those ones who walked away, they were ridiculed, they were mocked, they were called names, they were looked down upon, they were treated as traitors. He said because they didn't go with the group, and the Democratic Party taught the group to treat them as traitors, treat them as less than, because they didn't go along with them, all in an effort to get them to come back, and all in an effort to make them want to return. But God says you can't make someone who's been set free and who's seen freedom and knows the value in their freedom return by insulting them, by shaming them, by mocking them, by trying to make them feel lower than. He said, you can't make someone who sees their value and who sits high feel low. You can't make them feel low because they know their value. They see their value, and they're sitting high. So God said He's calling His people out of bondage. He freed us a long time ago, but we're falling victim to the rhetoric of the Democratic Party. He said He's waiting for us to break free of that mental bondage and break free of that rhetoric, so we can truly embrace our freedom and enjoy Him. He said, until then, the black people will still stay in bondage, and they will not come out. He said, because it's all dependent on us. He said, no one is keeping us there but us. But until then, God loves you, Jesus loves you, and I love you. But stay prayed up, because we're in a time of great spiritual warfare.